One aspect which distinguished the general trading companies from the livery companies was the level of risk and nature of financing. Those funding such foreign trading ventures had little certainty regarding what return they might make on their investment. This contrasted with the guilds and livery companies, with almost instant notice regarding the kinds of goods bartered and amounts of money paid locally. With the trading companies, there was also the constant risk of a complete loss, such as if a ship sank or was destroyed, or a foreign trading outpost was expelled. Initially, there was no safety net of well-developed insurance markets. To address these risks, the promoters of general trading companies increasingly used the joint stock company as their main operating model. This legal form permitted the promoters to seek capital from a broad range of persons. The process of joint stock subscription evolved over time, with varying subscription terms tied to the duration of ship voyages. There was generally a reevaluation of the stockholding values at the end of each term, with dividends paid out in proportion to the share in the company. In a sense, these trading companies were the forerunners of the modern public corporation. The division of responsibility, and often ownership, between persons active in the management of company affairs and those acting as passive investors would become a central theme in relation to questions of responsibility and liability. But it was not only the British who were operating this way. Other growing European powers, such as the Dutch, were not only forging their own paths in global trade, but were bringing the company legal form and financing to the next level.
Now, one of the keys to the success of the Dutch was innovation in both finance and law. And perhaps the best example of this was the Dutch East India Company.
Much has been said and written about the innovation of the Dutch Trading Company and its financing structure. Many see in it the origins of equity investment and the modern multinational corporation. A share certificate in the Dutch East India Company was even the target of professional thieves in the Hollywood hit Ocean's 12. From a legal standpoint, the main achievement of the Dutch East Indies Company was in diversifying the risk of financing trading ventures to far-off markets in India and Asia. Up until then, the main investment vehicle had been a partnership interest in a specific voyage, which could yield either great profits or a complete loss of one's investment. The initial promoters of the Dutch East Indies Company received a share in the profits of multiple trading ventures, not just one. Historians debate just how novel this approach was, but the company's promoters went even a step further. Investment in the company was offered beyond just a small group of partners to a much wider group of passive investors. Importantly, the share interests became directly exchangeable for money. This contrasted with the traditional partnership form, which generally required a partner to sell back his interest to the remaining partners if he wanted to divest. The considerable inflow of capital which resulted helped the VOC to quickly become one of the largest and most influential organizations on the planet. From its humble origins in a handful of Dutch cities, it grew to control a vast network of trading posts in India, Asia, Africa, and the Americas. The Dutch also established New Amsterdam in the areas around modern-day New York City before losing control of the area to the British. At its height, the VOC is estimated to have directly employed over 25,000 persons and involved over 1 million agents and associates of various kinds and nationalities. The success of the model led to imitations by other nations who set up their own trading companies. The largest of these companies rivaled nations in terms of their influence and power. Some had their own armies, de facto governments, and were able to influence, if not determine, developments in the lands which hosted them. The prosperity which accompanied this period of peace, combined with the huge returns to be made on products from overseas, led to a type of investment euphoria. Perhaps the best example of this was the tulip crisis of 1637. The tulip flower was originally introduced to Europe from Turkey and developed by botanists in order to survive the harsher continental climate. The flower's bright colors and variety reflected the optimism of the Dutch Golden Age, and the tulip became an instant hit and status symbol. Markets developed for contracts in tulip products, which are considered the predecessors of the modern futures contracts. Tulips became major export products from the Low Countries to elsewhere in Europe. Prices for some varieties reached astronomical levels. But the tulip craze could not last forever. By the winter of 1637, prices and markets imploded. The tulip mania is seen as an early example of a speculative market bubble. However one views this topic, the events of the tulip mania left a legacy of financial and legal arrangements which have underpinned the capitalist system down to the present.